Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
And Jacob Weil.
And Casey.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we find ourselves in the midst of Disney's big venture into the world of streaming, having started a war in the process, we thought it'd be nice to stay up to date on the ever-growing catalog and rule on what's a must or a bust on Disney+.
And tonight, kicking off our Star Wars celebration early, we're bringing you Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2 Spoilercast.
That's right, folks. Happy May the 4th. Day early.
Happy May the 4th Eve.
There you go, yeah. Boonta Eve. Little Boonta Eve for the kids.
Yes, Boonta Eve.
Bring out the pod racing.
And it's like, now that's pod racing.
Now that's pod racing. Podcasting on pod racing.
Yes. There actually was a podcasting episode this season. Pod racing episode this season. Was that?
Yeah.
Was that?
Well, I mean, it's a different name, but I think it's like a cultural thing. Like Tatooine's kind of low rate, so it's kind of pod racing. Anyway, it's not good.
Well, there was a racing episode this season.
No, you're right. There was a racing. I'm just saying. Essentially, Jacob, it is pod racing, but they just gave it a different title. But essentially, I think it's like it's pod racing on a different planet. That's all you need to know.
Well, we're just splitting hairs.
Anywho, here we are talking about the Bad Batch again. Last time we talked about, I believe we had Casey on. So Casey, dazzle us with thoughts on Star Wars.
Just general thoughts on Star Wars?
I mean, this specific slice of Star Wars, but Star Wars by proxy of the Bad Batch, a little Bad Batch baked pie of Star Wars.
So I guess, so I'm not making anything super long-winded. I did kind of talk about this last time we talked about Mando, and I feel like whether you want to say it's in a more subtle way or a more obvious way, I feel like a lot of what they're doing right now is to try and help build upon and improve the sequel trilogy. And it is insanely apparent with, everything in the Bad Batch, because it's heavily on cloning, which is what we see in the sequel trilogy that culminates in the final film. I think, a lot of stuff that's coming out Star Wars wise right now is, I hesitate to use the word mediocre because I feel like it's kind of got a bad connotation to it. But it is kind of mediocre. It's very mid. I'm still very much enjoying a lot of the Star Wars stuff that comes out, but I feel like we're getting further and further away from some of the really good stuff like we had with Rebels or even with like our final seasons of, Clone Wars. But Bad Batch has been pretty solid. So I'm excited to talk about this and hear what you guys think, in regards to this, season overview.
All right. Well, first up, before we move on, we have a comment from Richard's victims. You, sir, mocked Richard's victim before, yet you sit here demanding answers. Now, damn it, let him speak. All right, then.
I'm very confused.
It's a commenter to change the name, so he's he's very kind of braggadocious about it.
Yeah, and he's really digging into the little victim thing.
Yeah. All right, Jacob, what did you think?
It's like I kind of watched I kind of watched like the first eight episodes as they came out, but I just kind of binged the last eight, ironically enough, recently. So it was like, no, so it's kind of fresh, so a lot of it's kind of fresh in my head. It's like, I'm still honestly not sure how this stacks up to the first season. I still don't think the show overall is as good as we had with as the Clone Wars, and I'm also started rewatching Rebels, and I don't think it really reaches the heights of that either so far. But as far as it goes, I still think it's a really good show. It's like I love all the Batch. The characters are great. Omega 2. And of course, we even get some of the ambiguity with Crosshair. Got a lot of development from him. I must say, I'm kind of impressed at how they're really pushing the more ambiguity in this series. So let's hope season 3 can bring some more surprises. Bring surprises to us.
It's interesting with season 2 here so far. Overall, I really liked it. And, we talked about before, once again, on Mando about, filler episodes and how shorter formed television kind of can't really deal with, episodics. But, Bad Batch has, much more room to wiggle with it. But was it just me, or did you guys feel there was a little bit too many episodics in this season?
Well, okay, so let me transition. Let me answer my thoughts on it. I thought Bad Batch season 2 was a good continuation. I love I love the idea of the Bad Batch. I do. I like how it was nice how we introduced them in the last season of Clone Wars, but particularly in retrospect, that was a really good idea because the Bad Batch being kind of this splintering kind of
I mean,
kind of pseudo.
they're kind of like the A team.
Well, sure, yeah, they're very much introduced like the A team, but it's nice that we kind of had like this great spin-off idea seeded in Clone Wars that had like a really natural transition point for that universe.
I mean, it's basically the first episodes of season 7 were kind of a backdoor pilot.
Well, yes. It's a backdoor pilot that then gave us this great transition point and kind of spin off to okay, the Aaron Stars I've always been fascinated with in terms of like if we ever went back, go back to the stories of Star Wars. They're kind of I love the 0.5 territory, particularly 3.5 because that was jazzed me out of mind because for me the prequels were always the interesting part of the prequels. Like to me, should have started probably like episode 3 onward to me. And now we've kind of entered a juncture in Star Wars where we've kind of explored that, between stuff like because you have that you have Solo. You have now we have like Obi-Wan. We've had Andor and all this sorts and the Rogue One and everything. So we've explored the 3.5 kind of area of Star Wars. So I never expected. As a kid, I thought it was like okay, well we just kind of listed out the official numbers. We're never going to see that 0.5 era like represented in film or let alone television.
Honestly, I'd like to see a 4.5. Between New Hope and Empire.
Well, you're right. That'd be interesting as well. I'm just saying again, as broadly, that was always kind of the space. I was always like talked up, and like, it was interesting because like, okay, we now have Darth Vader. We don't have like year one Darth Vader. So like the year one era of Darth Vader was always kind of the interesting point for me to see. And now we have like sort of comics and stuff that's kind of explored that. But it's just the idea that like the the aftermath and the transition point, I think, is just has always been like a really interesting thing to explore in Star Wars, and the show is literally founded on that principle. So because of that, I've always loved the idea of the Bad Patch. Plus, I'm a teams guy. I like the whole, I love the Suicide Squad and its various permutations because it's like a dirty dozen ideas. The idea of kind of the ragtag group, and they're interesting. They have good dynamics. They play off each other, and with the Bad Batch, you have the clone thing, which is already something they had really strived for in Clone Wars, making the clones stand out and giving you the rally behind them. So now we have like a firm, like kind of assortment of clones. Anyway, so season one's all about the aftermath, and I feel overall looking at season two, season one, I like season two. I had a lot of fun with season two. I think there are some great highlights in season two, but I can't say that overall season one, because it's laying the groundwork, there's a lot to explore. So in that sense, each episode is giving you a new piece of the puzzle. And I feel like there's only like 2 episodes installed in season one. But outside of that, season one, all throughout, we're learning things about these characters, and we have like some fun guest stars, and we're just kind of we're laying the track, and we do have a great kind of ending on things in terms of like what we say about Crosshair. Now this season progresses those arcs. We're paying off things for the most part. That's the most interesting aspect of this season for me, in which they know what their ending is this season, and they're dropping foreshadows, they're dropping hints of where this season's going from the get-go when you look back on things. The drawback, the nitpick that I have, Casey, is that for me, it feels like the battle scenes and the missions themselves are getting a little generic. They're losing their luster. Like the set pieces and the roads getting there, like the cells of these episodes are great to me, but it's just like, okay, and the Bad Batch is kind of going through their motions. We're firing at stormtroopers, but unless we do something cool like the run the rail gantry thing, like the railway thing, or the or we're like in a giant shipping container. Like when we have great set pieces within the action, just getting there is like, okay, setup, climax, and there's your episode. So it's like the midpoint is kind of losing me a little bit here and there this season, which I kind of noticed. It's like I feel like the second half, as Jacob was saying earlier, the second half of those 8 episodes, I feel the momentum picked up, and I feel we were kind of getting back to kind of that season 1 space. And that's not to say we didn't have good parts of that first 8 episodes, but it just feels like we were getting more to the meat of the piece by the second half.
So basically, once the conspiracy popped up.
Exactly, when the conspiracy popped up, and the thing of the second half when we get the big crosshair episode. So it's there's in our finale, which I thought we had a really good finale this season. So I think the back 8 really picked up, and just you had a couple like disparately good episodes in the first 8. So that's kind of where I'm at on season 2. But season 2 was good, just more high moments versus like consistently just good all throughout.
All right. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah. So I guess the place to start is we end the first season. We've ended with the Empire essentially wiping Camino off the board. Crosshair, he's starting to get conflicted because we Crosshair's arc in the Bad Batch is really interesting looking back on it because Crosshair, if memory serves, and correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen. Crosshair essentially we had the ambiguity we have ambiguity of a different variety this season. The ambiguity last season was like the big question of like Crosshair is it a malfunction or is he actually choosing the Empire? And by the end of that season, we kind of established he has an opportunity at the end of the season. He basically has a Zuko choice from Avatar. Does he side with our guys or does he side with the Empire because of the programming and because that's the way he knows? And we basically say it's not the chip in his head making him do it. He's choosing the Empire because that's the life that he knows and he was told. And he essentially was brainwashed in the not so literal sense. So I think that's where we left off with Crosshair at the end of season 1. So we get to then kind of see him live with that decision this season.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nala say, like the Camino lady is captured, and Omega is now officially part of the team. She's not just like kind of like a little thing that's like on the mission or like part of the ship. She's kind of like, she's firing her weapons. She's been trained in some combat. She's doing stuff. Yeah.
And I was like, she's really kind of stepped up. So it's like she's part of the team now, which is, as you said, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess it's an idea. Like, and continuing the whole point of like the whole Camino and Crosshair thing, I kind of like how the whole Camino thing later on kind of be like kind of almost became like a political thriller aspect of this show. It's not something that's always explored in Star Wars, and it's kind of interesting to see that here.
I mean, I love a good political thriller. I mean, I think nowadays we're getting a little oversaturated with it. When it's done right, the best case you got Winter Soldier,
And the worst case.
Well, I don't know. Worst. I didn't really think like the worst case of this, but I'm just saying like we see it so much. I can cite good examples of it. I'm not really citing the bad examples, but there are just the fact that it's done a lot.
All right.
Yeah. So I just saw my point is like the oversaturation. I just saw a Netflix show recently that is good and it's based on a book, but it's like the Night Agent. Yet again, it's another political conspiracy thriller, which I mean it was good, but it's like the third one that I've seen. And like now there's like a new show on Amazon where it's another spy espionage sort of thing. It's like, we're doing it a lot. But in the sense, yeah.
Did you mean Citadel?
Yeah, Citadel, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Which is also, and that's really good too. It's just, again, it's like, yeah, man, we're just doing a lot of it back to back these days.
Fair enough.
I mean, we're getting a lot of things.
Exactly.
Nowadays.
We are getting a lot of everything. Yeah.
I mean, you can, I mean, and this is not to negate your what you were just saying. I mean, if anything, it's to, emphasize it. But yeah, I mean, you even look at something like, these superhero action movies. There's like a million of them, and there's a bunch of political thrillers, and then there's, it's just, I think we're now getting to a point where there's just an oversaturation of like everything. But there is still a ton of really good stuff out
exactly,
there.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Right. So,
I mean, I mean, I usually don't follow the whole too much of a good thing, but I can see where you're coming from on that.
So looking back on the Bad Batch, now that we've gotten all the episodes and everything. Again, what impresses me is that we did plant some nice seeds in the premiere. Like, we have the premiere being the whole like Dooku's war chest, and we got a mission from Sid to raid Count Dooku's war chest. Yet another Star Wars show where we throw Dooku's name around, and it's just because it's like the cool factor of Count Dooku. But yeah, we don't really do much with it. It's like, Dooku's gone, but he had cool stuff. Let's just take it. And then in Mando we had, hey, Christopher Lloyd just said Count Dooku, isn't that awesome? And then we tase him.
Yeah, so I wonder if they're teasing Dooku, or is it just a coincidence?
I think it's just a coincidence. We like, honestly, you know what I think it is? I think it's that we had that, what is it, Tales of the Jedi? Is that
I was literally just about to bring that up. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go on. Yeah. Tell them about Tales of the Jedi.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. We've had 2 teases on 2 shows that are currently airing, and then we did have Tales from the Jedi. And honestly, I honestly think that show was okay, but the best of it was all the Dooku stuff.
Mm-hmm. I know. Literally, I agree. Yeah.
Like the first episode about like Ahsoka being a baby, like that was. I'm sorry. I thought that was such a waste of an episode. And I guess the final like Ahsoka episode was interesting, but all the Dooku stuff was like they could easily make a Dooku show. But I think the bringing it back into the Bad Batch here, something that was really interesting is that like, we had Dooku's story kind of told through the prequel films. We had his story told through Tales from the Jedi. And then we're kind of almost getting like this contradictory account that we saw in the first couple episodes where the guy like kind of talked about how Dooku sort of in one sense led, this planet to ruin. And how he like really neglected a lot of the people.
Yeah, and again, I love how this Tales from the Jedi, really showcased that Dooku was coming from a well-intentioned place with what he did, which is a layer I don't think we ever really truly explored or really got with the movies. Or even, I mean, Clone Wars is always just more like, like Dooku being cocky, but never really talking about what he believed in. That stuff like that really got into the core of like, yeah, he was, he wasn't just like evil for evil's sake or anything. I mean, he was like, Dooku's like the example of corruption, and ultimately the point of Dooku, again, Filoni being all retroactive and cool like this, again, just trying to redeem, like, this is what George was going for. It's really cool. He's got to read between the lines. He's got to add some retroactive stuff. It'll be cool. But essentially, look at my cowboy hat. No, but
it's like Dave, you're not on set right now. You don't have to wear the hat.
But they need to know I'm wearing the hat.
It's like, how will they know who I am?
This hat's my identity.
It's like, sorry, Casey, we have this kind of weird.
We love Dave Filoni's hat. That's really just.
we believe he's obsessed with like showing up in like his. It's like, Dave, you're not on set. You don't need to wear the Trapper Wolf costume.
The Trapper Wolf costume and the hat.
It's like, you don't need to wear the costume, Dave. It's like, but I have to. It's like, I'm in charge. Like I'm executive. I'm like, he's basically in charge of like the storytelling of Lucas.
Sorry, whose name's on the show? Thank you. Who gets to decide what they wear this morning?
Lucas.
This guy.
Lucas's name is on the name of the studio, though.
Well, it's not like George is there saying, Dave, don't wear the costume.
Not anymore, anyway.
That's true. Just imagine like Kathleen Kennedy or someone calling, George, can you tell him not to wear the costume on set? Anyway, we're drifting off focus here. My point is retroactively, again, it's like, hey, we're looking at Dooku as kind of this parallel and kind of parable for like what's going to happen with Anakin Skywalker in terms of turning to the dark side of the Force as a means to an end to achieve something that's going to help people you care about. Anyway, we spent a lot of time talking about Dooku, and Dooku's pretty much just like a throwaway. Hey, Dooku's got a war chest.
But yeah, so it does kind of make sense, like, in a way.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So like, we have some foreshadows in the premiere here where we have like and we foreshadow and set up the stuff like, okay, so we have Sid sending him on dangerous missions that put them precariously dangling in cargo containers and stuff. Now, I'm not saying that has a direct correlation with her being involved in what happens in the last episode, but it's the fact that we're setting up this whole season that we have the status quo of Sid sending on dangerous missions, but that's going to break this season, and then we have them dangling precariously over things, and we're in like this like a metal kind of box in the sky essentially. So we are kind of hinting at the finale a little bit at the top here, which is really cool looking back on it.
And it kind of does like sow the seeds of them not beginning to trust Sid.
And overall, the theme of this season really seems to be, as the show total has always seemed to be. I mean, again, it's only been 2 seasons, but shifting status quos. That seems to be the theme of what the Bad Batch is all about. It's a shift in status quo. It's a shift from Clone Wars to the Imperial reign. To just the carryover from season 1 in this case being like, okay, so we established how people think the Bad Batch is just going to go in terms of this odd adventures where we're going to do that, but we're also going to show that we're going to move forward in our story here. We're going to question why we're doing things and the fact that there's an impermanence to what we're doing, and we don't know what happens to the really cool trick about this show is that we don't necessarily know what happens to the Bad Batch because when you look at the prequels, like any prequel or most prequels, you have an idea or you know exactly how it's going to end, in which, we have clones and then we have stormtroopers. And, depending on what...
we have clones and we have wars.
Yeah.
I mean, but that much is obvious. But what happens in there is like I said, the beauty of like the anthology nature of Clone Wars is that even though we knew where this series would ultimately end, we didn't always know how it would get there.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I mean is admittedly nowadays what we've kind of gotten into with Star Wars and everything is that we've kind of, in peeling back the layers, in further exploring things, that I think the idea that we've confirmed in the Bad Batch is, at a certain point we probably ran out of clones, or we shifted away from directly just making clones by the dozen, and we have guys who are just like, essentially we conscript people. We kind of explored that idea last season a little bit and showed that eventually the Empire is probably just going to having cut ties and blowing up Camino the way they did at the end of the season. They're going to run out of clones. We're just going to get other guys in there. But then again, Mando, we're still experimenting with clones. So long-winded way of saying.
So basically, the Empire stole the cloning technology from the Kaminoans.
Essentially, yeah. So this season definitely does give us a layer of the Emperor's cloning plans. Definitely still inspired from what we're doing in the Clone Wars and everything. That's where kind of blossom into a more personal cloning project off the books once we destroyed the Camino.
Sorry, go on, Casey.
No, I was just going to say it's very interesting though, because like even in other Star Wars media, you very much see and hear about the things that the Emperor was working on, and he was very. And I mean, there's also the parallels, in the original trilogy of the stormtroopers and the Empire being like Nazi Germany.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
Hitler hoarding all of this and doing experiments, and and it's the same thing with the Emperor, is that he was constantly working on things. He was constantly doing things.
He had 65 plans that it probably didn't turn out too well.
And so yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like this is just another one of them. I mean, heck, in Battlefront 2, they have a whole campaign, and one of the missions in the campaign is about like the Emperor having these secret outposts throughout like all these different planets where he just like hoards artifacts and like treasure and art and stuff like that. And so obviously, once again, they're emphasizing this point as a way to kind of enhance and, make better on the sequel trilogy.
I love that campaign, by the way.
Yeah, it's a fun little campaign. And then there's the follow-up campaign to it too, which is a little bit shorter and a little bit sadder, but yeah.
I mean, it's rendered basically non-canon now, but it was basically kind of like the story of like a 501st kind of troop, and them going through the Clone Wars and then their days of stormtroopers.
Well, yeah, I guess my earlier what I was getting at is that the fact that it's kind of like a Better Call Saul thing in terms of Kim Wexler is not in Breaking Bad, but so throughout Better Call Saul, we don't know what her fate's going to be at the end of that story. So in this case, the Bad Batch being a retroactive idea, they were introduced at the end of Clone Wars, yet they are not in Rebels because they did not make the Bad Batch yet, so we don't know full what happens to these guys.
Yeah.
It's gonna be an interesting thing, It's the idea of like, are we one day in live action? We're gonna see Tamar Morrison playing a bunch of wonky versions of himself.
It's like, right, everyone, my name's Wrecker.
I think realistically, if we're gonna get anything from the Bad Batch, it would be Omega.
Well, sure. Honestly, if they would do a Boba Fett season 2, we're probably gonna get Omega in there.
I mean, she's the most likely import from the Bad Batch.
Yeah. So it should be very interesting. But yeah, I we don't know what's going to happen to the Bad Batch. But honestly, Star Wars / Disney can get a little non-committal with deaths, and so I don't really think.
Really, do they?
Which is exactly why I don't think that Tech is dead. Even though I like Tech and I, in a sense, don't want him to be dead, I think it'd be best if he was. Really lay in that.
Sad to say, but you're right. It's the fact that we gotta start killing people in Star Wars. We gotta make sure they stay dead because they just keep coming back.
You heard it here, folks. Dragon wants people to die.
I mean,
in Star Wars.
Yeah,
Star Wars.
It'll really lay in that there are risks, that there is, something that we need to fear, and it really helps with us caring about these characters.
Now it's just becoming that red letter media joke of no one's ever really gone, and where it's like, man, they really literalized that thing where no one's ever really gone in Star Wars. Grief Karga got shot in the chest. No, that one was fine because it was like a little metal thing under his chest. But it's the fact, Timothy Oliphant's character in the Marshal. It's like, the Marshal's coming back. Really, I love him, but still, this is how we do it.
Dude, Cad Bane is like one of the most dangerous bounty hunters that ever existed, and you're telling me that he didn't kill him?
That's the thing. Now it's like, hey, we've stabbed Cad Bane, and yet Reva got stabbed with a lightsaber through her body and still lived. And not just lived. She went all the way to Tatooine after being stabbed.
Yeah. They just need to commit to it. I'll say that the only time that I actually agree with them not killing somebody off is Darth Maul, because we got one of the single-handedly best stories across all Star Wars media is Darth Maul's very tragic story.
Darth Maul's like the miracle exception, though. It's not, that's the thing where that's like, okay, that guy, you're thinking, okay, that guy can't possibly be alive because he was cut in half. Well... His top half was still around. He wasn't beheaded. He still had a body.
The power of hate kept him alive.
Yep.
And one other thing. You know what other thing was?
Magic?
No. Kenobi!
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it, yeah.
How's my scream?
No, I got that, yeah.
Nice.
All right, so should we talk about Sid?
Yeah.
Rhea Perlman.
Yeah, good old Rhea Perlman. I love that she kind of runs things out of a bar, so it just brings... they're thinking about Cheers when they created Sid. They are.
Now I just want Danny DeVito to guest star in one of these episodes.
I know, right?
Well, more so than Danny DeVito. I want more of the Cheers cast in there. That's good.
Well, I mean, she's married to Danny DeVito.
Well, yes, she is. I'm just saying, it's also your whole career is founded on Cheers to a degree. So
I know, but like I said, the fact that she's here makes me want Danny DeVito.
All right.
I mean, Ted Danson, I could give or take.
Well, I mean, more of like John Ratzenberg.
Ratzenberger.
Sorry, Ratzenberger.
But yes, I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get him, but I wonder if we're gonna get Norm.
That's what I'm saying. Old George Wendt could go far,
Norm.
Anyway, Okay, no, seriously, Sid's got an arc this season. Sid, I like how we have this nice misdirective. We think it's business as usual up front, but then we see, man, Sid's getting more and more reckless and just kind of like throwing him into really dangerous situations. And I don't. We have like the little riot racing episode, which again is our pod racing episode, and like that, the episode's called Faster. It's that's a really that was a fun episode in the first date. That was like it's a big tech episode, which again, in retrospect is like, hey, we're building up tech.
Yeah.
Like an episode of him actually kind of letting loose for a little bit.
Yeah, which is wonderful, and I love how that it kind of is it's kind of a foreshadow, or I guess ultimately somewhat of a misdirect. But yeah, we love tech. We're building up for a fall.
It is kind of interesting, like how like things kind of become strained between him and Omega, really more than anyone else on the team.
Yeah, I like that we gave them a bonding episode when they were stranded. We got a lot of stuff with tech.
Yeah, after Echo left, which is also kind of sad.
I know, because we all love, I think we all loved Echo.
I mean, he wasn't even originally part of the batch, but he became a welcome member after. Especially,
I'm saying, I always remembered Echo from Clone Wars. I was delighted to see that he indeed survived, and we kind of put him on the team.
Like I said, I really love like when Tech was like telling, he was like, just because I process it differently doesn't mean I'm not grieving or something along those lines.
Yeah, no, it is. That's what I'm saying. We give him a lot of really good bits. Plus, I mean, here's the thing. In retrospect, it feels. I just love all the breadcrumbs. Like, man, we're really setting up Tech to be important because we've given all these moments. If you notice, record kind of took a back seat this season compared to Tech.
Well, I mean, there's a bit. I mean, considering like the build up, the big moment in season 1 for Wrecker was like him resisting the chip.
Yeah.
Good soldiers follow orders.
Yeah, exactly. I was terrified we were going to kill that guy in that episode.
Yeah, I mean, I love Wrecker. He's such a big teddy bear.
Oh, for sure. And also, like we gave, just to make it all immature here, Tech got a girlfriend this season.
Which was simultaneously really weird, but something I guess I enjoyed.
Yeah, how do we feel about Wanda Sykes anyway? And this is Fio? Is that
just Fee?
Fee, sorry, Fee.
I mean I like Wanda Sykes, or I don't necessarily dislike her, and I like her character. I do. It's just I don't know. I'll say I like her character.
Here's my takeaway with her. It's two things. One, she's basically she's going to be our fill-in for Sid. She's basically they knew what they were going to do with Sid in the season. Like we're gonna have to sour that relationship. We're gonna have to sever it, but we're gonna still want a Sid-like character kind of there. So we have Fee. And on the secondary thing, this thing kind of has been run through the story where she was recently. Pirate character, not Hondo. Still placeholder for Hondo.
Yes, Hondo is still sorely missed. I mean, like I said, I'm now like near the end of season 2 on my rewatch of Rebels, and we've actually had a couple Hondo episodes in there. Just like it just makes me realize, like, man, where was he in Mando in the Bad Batch?
Well, the Bad Batch, they got to bring up. Here's the thing. So longevity wise, the Bad Batch at a minimum, I'm thinking I wonder if they're going to end at season 3. Maximum, they could go to 5. Minimum, if they ended at 3, it's fine. But if they ended at 3, we got to get Hondo in that 3rd season. They got to work him in somewhere.
I think it is just one more season.
Well, then they got to work.
Did they say it was only one more?
Yep, a 3rd and final season was announced in April 2023 to be released in 2024.
Oh, there you go. Then okay, I'm going to say it again. They got to work in Hondo for this last season.
Hondo.
Yeah, we got to get Hondo there, and more importantly, we got to get Hondo in live action for this Ahsoka show.
Maybe they already will.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how I would feel about Hondo live action because
we have like
some of their live action transitions have not been that great.
Zeb looks good in live action.
Well, what hasn't worked out for you in live action?
Well, I mean, I could really nitpick things.
Okay, not the Inquisitor doesn't. We all agree the Inquisitor's head could be bigger. But aside from the Inquisitor in live action, what do you got?
I mean, well, first off, Ahsoka's tattoos are not tattoos because they're not tattoos.
Yeah,
her print
okay.
is wrong. Next, we do have the Inquisitor. In addition to that, we also have Cad Bane does not look right.
What do you mean Cad Bane doesn't look right? What are you talking about?
Cad Bane looked fine.
No. All he was missing was the toothpick. That's all he was missing.
No, they I'll have to show you the side-by-side comparisons of what he should have looked like. Cad Bane is definitely a lot more slimmer, and they made him like
Well,
fatter.
remember, he is older though.
Yeah, but I mean, not too much older. Well, I mean, I guess it is 20 years, but even so, but like we don't necessarily know that, these aliens age like humans do. And that dude's still moving around like he hasn't aged at
I mean,
all.
true, but it's like there's a little bit of a buffer just in case they can't full on like bring it like 100% from the last time we saw him. Then there's a 20-year gap to fill in any holes in the adaptation. I don't know. I think there's at least a good enough buffer for why is not one for one, but I think it's still pretty darn good. I mean, again, I would have loved the toothpick, but
Yeah. I mean,
and also not to mention the fact that Zeb looked great.
Yeah, Zeb looked a little weird, but I think it's just like the transition of actually seeing what his species looks like in live action, because I'm 99% sure we have not seen them in live action prior.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I think they should have done Cad Bane a little bit slimmer, and even adding Darth Maul back in for the Solo movie, he wasn't right because Maul definitely got slimmer as he aged.
I mean, the most important thing is the character's recognizability, to me at least. And in my opinion, it's like I mean, I'll concede with Cad Bane, but definitely with Zeb, they definitely nailed him.
Folks, you heard it here. Casey's fat shaming the Star Wars characters.
No, we know he's more like
Just wait till we get the Jabba. Just wait till we get there.
Well, actually, Dragon, he's more skinny shaming them.
The thing is that like I think at the end of the day, yes, I am being nitpicky. But it is a thing of like sometimes animated characters don't necessarily translate well to live action, and we've seen that with plenty of different like anime or other cartoons that they made live action versions of. But no, it is interesting though that like pretty much every time they do something like that, there's a fan out there that literally in a matter of days goes and fixes everything, and it looks fantastic.
Right, you mean like the deep fake guys and everything when they do like the little basically say this is our version of the effect, which in most cases is like, well, that is quite an improvement, but then again, they don't have to sustain it for like the whole duration of that characters for like the few shots they have to work with. But you're right though, it's still the fact that people can do wondrous things.
Yeah,
that studios aren't really thinking of all the time.
I mean, it's even the same situation that happened in Obi-Wan when they did the flashback with Anakin. Mm-hmm. Literally within days of that episode airing, someone went and fixed Hayden Christensen, so he literally looked like he did back in episode 2. And
ordinarily the corridor crew, but not in this specific case that you're listing, but like Luke from Mando, that's the corridor crew do stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Luke had his issues, but ultimately I'm actually fine with that because he actually has, that was like a whole different actor. But anyway, back to the Bad Batch. I don't even remember where we were.
Okay, well, we mentioned Hondo. That's what got us the whole like being a pirate and the whole like we want Hondo season 3, etc.
Yeah,
et cetera.
And we also
I guess
we also want him in Ahsoka.
No, for sure, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that's what says
Hondo is one of my favorite like reoccurring characters of the franchise at this point. But anyway, so yeah, going back to her character though, I mean, I liked her character. I wasn't opposed to her. I think she could have actually I think she could have got them into more trouble, or not trouble, but into more adventures. But I think realistically, it would have been great if, storyline wise, they had her character introduce the, that sanctuary much earlier in the season. Kind of when like these characters were a little bit more freshly lost after the end of the first season, which I want to say also going back in our conversation commenting, the end of season 1 is what really solidified that I really liked the Bad Batch. Because I think that even season 1 suffers from some of the same issues that season 2 does, where like you don't really know where the plot direction is because we have too many episodics, which once again, I guess, with the 16 episode, format, you can play around with that a little bit more, but I don't know. I like her character, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay. Yeah. So, sorry. It's the point I was that was kind of like we were kind of circling around Sid. So Sid's arc too. I love that we had this thing where we did like in the the riot racing episode. It was kind of a nice additional to bonding. This whole season we bonded a lot of people to the Tech character. We kind of bonded Sid and Tech together there, and the fact that Tech saved her bacon, and it's just the kind of distracting the fact that man. You think Omega always has like this little friendship with Sid they kind of fortified in the first season, and now Sid is like it's like we have this little warning with Sid earlier on that hey, remember she'll turn on you guys. Like we really shouldn't feel obligated to save her because technically we're indebted to her and she is technically blackmailing. It's like no, it's Sid. We're friends. And of course, Sid, she ends up turning on them very majorly. It's a big. I love how she feels terrible about it, but she did it, and it's great.
She said she had to make the best of a bad situation.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Does an episode, which I remember when Faster came out, a lot of fans, at least from what I saw, weren't particularly happy about that episode. But that's the thing. Does an episode like Faster somehow, emphasize, her betrayal, or does it almost feel contradictory that like they built the relationship up in a positive way, only to have her not be seen for a number of episodes and then betray them?
I mean, I don't necessarily think that's contradictory per se. She has been kind of shady from the very beginning, and like I said, you can even tell that she really didn't want to sell down in the first place.
I think I think it was a refreshing change. I think it's just a refreshing thing of like we always say these sorts of things like after a certain there's always that danger of like you soften kind of a shady or dangerous character too much to the point of like oh no it's never gonna either you really they've been I'm trying to think I'm kind of thinking like Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy right now but I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying it's like for example like Yondu is like he's all talk we reveal or ultimately he is he says he's soft, but you get a sense he might have actually killed Peter Quill in that first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, though. So there's a little bit of menace there, but deep down, he does like the guy. Now, you look at Sid, though. Sid, it's the fact that we keep saying like these characters are dangerous, and we show that she wasn't hiding it at all. We kind of knew this that Sid was a force to be reckoned with. People said, "Hey, don't cross Sid, don't cross Sid." Well, guess what? If you go home out of desperation, like everyone's injured, and we got to go someplace safe. We come crawling back to Sid. Sid's going to do the thing we warned about the whole season. So it's like we're thinking, okay, we're going back to safety and reality. Well, no, it's that warning you knew was going to happen during the season. I think it was a refreshing change. I don't know. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, look. I mean, it breaks my heart too that Sid did what she did. It feels kind of like nice that we kind of showed that. Yeah, there were. I mean, if the Bad Batch is a show about aftermath, this is aftermath. Sid threatened to blackmail him. She blackmailed him.
Yeah. I don't know. I like Sid's character. I like Rhea Perlman. But I feel like her character in one sense became kind of one note. So like it doesn't really bother me if she's not going to be like in the rest of the show.
Well, doesn't that choice that we made make her a little less one note though? If she does, like, if you feel a little conflicted about her at the end.
I mean, yeah, okay, so she's not exactly one note. I guess you could say she's kind of two-dimensional, but I mean, for a while she kind of was one note.
Yeah, for a while.
She was a plot device
Mhm.
essentially just to get these people to go on their next mission.
Yeah. Yes, I'm saying if it seems like there might be kind of like an opportunity to kind of spice that up at the end here. So I mean, if she did like have a redemption arc in season 3, would you be on board for that or not so much?
Honestly, if this third season is going to be the final season,
Mhm.
I feel like having her do some sort of redemption arc would be a waste of time. Because the thing is, I feel like to really hit home and to really like flesh out a good character redemption arc, she would need to be featured in quite a few episodes. That could really take away from wherever the plot's going for this.
Okay, let me throw this one at you, and we'll move on to other stuff. Just what if it was one episode? It wasn't like a whole thing. It wasn't like a whole like we didn't dedicate necessarily a full episode to. But let's just say we had like a moment with Sid where it's just like, hey, I know this doesn't make up for things, but here's where you can find the girl.
I mean, I guess I'd be fine with that. Just like, she's in like a segment or two and she just helps. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be fine with
like
that.
Makes up for the bad thing that she did, let's say within one episode, but not the whole episode.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with that, but I don't think even that would change my look on her character all that much.
I feel like Sid's Asian right now. We're just gonna move on. All right, so let's talk about the real. Well, yeah, not redemption yet, but definitely building towards. Let's talk about Crosshair, man. Crosshair to me was the MVP of the season.
It's like the Outpost episode was like.
I know, right? I love the Outpost episode.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights of the season.
That was the Batch wasn't even in that episode.
I know, that's the thing. This was like we had two cross. I don't know. If, I'm trying to remember the.
Well, by extension, the usual Batch. I mean, not. You know what I mean? Crosshair's not part of the Batch anymore.
Yes, got it. I think, if I remember serves, I think we've had two Crosshair episodes this season that were Crosshair-centric, in which the Bad Batch did not show up at all. I want to say the early one with Commander Cody did not feature the Bad Batch. I could be wrong about that one, but you're right. The Outpost is just full on. It's Crosshair.
Well, it was. We had two episodes this season that weren't focused on the Bad Batch or the core of the Bad Batch. I guess.
Right, because we had that episode on the was it on Coruscant? We had like the other clone conspiracy thing.
Yeah, it was the clone conspiracy. I'm trying to think if Tipping Point also. No, Tipping Point definitely had them. I don't think they were heavily featured though.
Okay. Anyway, but yes, I mean Crosshair. So he's the MVP of the season. He's got a great arc, albeit lacking an ending, but that's because we have another season left. So I understand why we didn't fully see Crosshair kind of pan out, and we see he's in the room with Omega, so you get an idea. It's kind of telegraphing, at least, that Omega's probably going to have a hand in helping Crosshair with the redemption thing, regardless.
Basically that's like this where Crosshair questioning the Empire comes to the forefront, like especially when the other clone was denied care, but he could have survived.
Which I guess also in the reality of it, I know it's just like a nitpicky thing, but like he wouldn't have survived because he literally anyway died like 2 seconds later.
I guess so,
but so
we could chalk that up under to dramatic license.
Yeah.
Hello? Is it hello?
Yeah. Sorry.
I just said, what say you?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the Commander Cody and Mayday are the clones that really represent the turning point for Crosshair very well. Like we have Commander Cody's like a nice way of like we have kind of a Captain Rex-esque figure for Crosshair to interact with. Because again, for a lot of people, it's Commander Cody and Rex were very much like the standout, like fan favorite clones. And I love like the tongue-in-cheek sort of not tongue-in-cheek, it's kind of like the coded kind of conversation they're having. We, the audience, have fond feelings for Commander Cody. And you get the sense in the dialogue that they're kind of feeling each other out. Like, hey, are you thinking about going against the Empire? Are you? I don't know. They're kind of feeling each other out there, seeing like how they're processing things. And Cody, I think the idea is that I could be wrong. Was the idea that Cody was siding with the Empire, but he had kind of somehow fought against this chip? Was that the idea? Like he was not controlled by the chip either, or was he?
You're saying Crosshair?
No, Commander Cody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commander Cody. No, he was controlled by the chip.
Did we free him from that chip in this episode?
I think Cody was already free.
That's what I'm saying. I'm wondering if he was. I know he was chipped. I'm wondering if are we saying that we're playing it ambiguously that he has been freed from the chip and he's just bringing up like the questions that are kind of like ringing in Crosshair's head at this point?
Oh, I don't.
Honestly, I have no idea.
That's the thing is they're playing it ambiguous, and I like that we play it ambiguous, but I just doesn't because it seems like Cody's kind of going against the Empire at the end there, so it seems like he was able to break free. So I don't know if that means like the whole time he was in a similar boat as Crosshair, like he's siding with them, but he's ethically because that's what he knew, and at least I don't know. It's a little unclear. It's a little fuzzy, but I mean I still liked it. Anyway, so again, so the idea is that Crosshair he is he's being mistreated, seeing that the clones are being mistreated by the Empire, and he's basically seeing the ramifications of good soldiers follow orders.
And he's beginning to question that whole mantra.
Yeah, and again, it's the big sell of the Bad Batch again. It's like what if a clone was aware of the moral implications post Order 66, which is mainly what we're exploring through Crosshair right now. Like what if what if you got like someone who is not brainwashed but knows like he's on the wrong side, which we also with the Bad Batch collectively did as a team in reaction to that when they were ordered to do something very morally reprehensible. And Crosshair is a real edgy guy, so it's questionable like how much of that was him, how much of that was the chip. He's kind of doing like it's kind of like a Jason Todd thing going on to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like that's going to be something we're going to probably see in Crosshair's character overall, because I think he is like super ingrained in the good soldiers follow orders mentality. Even if he's now questioning it, excuse me, questioning it, I don't feel like it would be in his character to have some sort of moral dilemma.
Yeah, but the Outpost episode, just to transition that a little bit, it's a great self-contained episode. Crosshair, he sees the error inside. I think the Outpost kind of solidifies that Crosshair once he comes through and he's because we saw him already trying to break out and everything. I think he's firmly against the Empire at this point, but he's not like on the Bad Batch's side yet. So he's kind of like at the very least he's out on his own right now, but he's trying to be out on his own. After the big harrowing experience, he goes through because he sees the error in siding with the Empire when he had a choice at the end of season 1. We had like the Zuko Avatar arc to a degree, where he's like, okay, I can pick a side now of my own free will. I'm choosing the bad guys. He backed the wrong horse. Where we see he and Mayday. By the way, just again in general, great clone designs overall. I love like the little details. Like Mayday has a good look, man. He's got like the long hair and the beard. It's a good look for him. Anyway, so yeah, this story with Mayday is just utterly harrowing, and I love that I just love everything about this episode. Like, we assign him to like this little sawed-off prick Imperial guy, Lieutenant Nolan, who we call out in this great scene that, yeah, you got the crap assignment too, buddy. You're supervising us in basically Diet Coke Hoth.
Did the planet even have a name?
Yeah, it had a name. It was something. It was something with a hyphen.
Barton 4.
Yeah.
Like, I mean that entire episode was just something else. Like, I was almost expecting it to turn into like almost like a Thing homage.
You mean like John Carpenter's The Thing?
Well, yeah, John Carpenter's The Thing from Another World, etc., etc.
Yeah. Well, I think we have an episode later on that has like an alien creature in it that's a little bit more like honestly, it's a little more like alien, just given the look of that thing. But
I mean, yeah, it is true.
Regardless, I just love the irony of like they were reclaiming stormtrooper armor this whole time. That's what they were going after, essentially. What they were the cargo they're supposed to carry, and I love that. Everything pays off in this episode. We have like they made this joke to Mayday saves his life when he steps on the landmine, and he says like I don't want to carry your body around anywhere, and then we kind of flip it around where he says he's actually is carrying his body all the way there, and it's such a harrowing thing. He just dies very realistically. I know quickly, but he dies realistically. It was still beautiful. At the very least, Lieutenant Nolan, he could have made the gesture. He could have said medic. That's all he needed to do, and he wouldn't have gotten shot. But I like that guy getting shot, so we're okay.
It's like I think everybody was expecting and/or hoping for Nolan to die.
Yep. At the very least, we know that We know Nolan's not dead. He's coming back. It's a proven science at this point. Hopefully,
I
a little
mean,
metal thing on the back of his head will
I
be
mean,
fine.
I think it's safe to say like if it's a major character, there's a chance they came back. If it's like a minor one-off character, they're dead.
Yep. Anyway, but yeah, so
So you heard it here, folks. Dragon is celebrating somebody's death.
Star Wars character's death, though.
I mean, let's not split hairs, Dragon.
Yeah, it was just all right. Anyway,
I'm just intentionally leaving out context for the sake of comedy.
so Crosshair, he snaps, kills Nolan, and I love that he kind of passes out, and you're so rooting for him to get away and probably waste the other stormtroopers, but he doesn't. He gets captured. It's a harrowing episode in all the right ways.
Yeah, I mean that entire episode was kind of bleak. It's like, and that's really the last major time we even see Crosshair outside of the time he like warns the batch of that they're coming for Omega.
Yeah.
In which case, it's like he actually did a selfless act for a change. It's like because whatever gripe he may have with the bench and his brothers, well, they're still his brothers. So, and whatever they're doing, it's like he doesn't want them to fall victim to that, which is pretty nice.
I mean, he's got no one else at this point, so I mean, they really, and he knows that no matter what, they will be there for him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, let's see. So some other stuff. I'm sorry, Casey. Do you want to direct us somewhere?
Well, let's actually talk about this what's the planet called? Pabu.
Yeah, Pabu is like the Oasis kind of like so it's the ideal like kind of Plan B option for the bad. It's the retirement package for the Bad Batch. Their new home.
And what did you guys think? What did you guys think of that whole plot line in this planet existing?
Well, it exists purely for plot reasons. That much we know. Like we're giving them a way out. That's the main reason this planet exists.
I mean, I'd like to live in a place like that.
It's nice. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they have sushi in space. I mean, that's kind of cool.
I mean, minus the earthquakes and tsunamis.
Were there earthquakes? I remember there were tsunamis. Were there?
Well, in the description of the episode, literally says contains depictions of earthquakes and tsunamis.
Yeah, I mean, an earthquake could cause a tsunami.
Okay. Well, okay. No, that tracks. All right. Okay, fine. Aside from the geographical flaws of this planet, it's a nice place, and they do have like a little wall you climb, so you get some exercise, and then you climb a little wall. Don't really have possessions here, just kind of like nice, kind of natural structures. Anyway, but overall, it's natural disaster notwithstanding, it's a Plan B option for the Bad Batch if they want to, hang it up, go somewhere safe. It allow Omega to do kid stuff, which that's an undercurrent of this season too. Like we have when we had the Hector Elizondo character hand her like the toy. It's like let the girl be a girl. Don't make her into a soldier. Like she's not like. I like the idea that the Bad Batch as kind of like this season, majority of which, especially after Echo, kind of like gets separated for a bit. It's 3 clones and a baby. It's essentially what the show is. 3 clones and a little girl in this case. And it's sort of like a clones know best, if you will. Just the idea that these clones are, they're trying to be kind of fathers and family to her, and trying to do what's best for her. And they're kind of realizing that we've been trained, having her go on missions and everything. We're kind of robbing her of her childhood, and the thing that none of us got. We were all bred for war and everything. This girl doesn't have to have the same options. Again, they're kind of fighting for peace in a sense, mainly fighting for her peace.
I mean, everything with Pabu definitely seems like this is realistically a tease at their end game, but which does make me think that like if they're trying to give her a normal childhood or the closest thing to a potential normal childhood, would that potentially remove the possibility of her not being in the fight long term, which then removes the possibility of her not being in any future live action thing? The Bad Batch almost being the self-contained story,
Well, I mean, again, in live action though, even if we did take her out of the fight, she could just still visit Tatooine.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's true.
That's what I'm saying. Like she could always she always like find some. We could always contrive some reason it's not war. Remember, we're kind of out of the wars when we do when we go to the Mando kind of timeline. Like 6 years later, when we have like again that to be fair, we have like the Imperial remnants and basically the kind of the beginnings of the First Order, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
We're in kind of an armistice of sorts, like kind of like a bit of a cool down period between wars. I mean, either way, the point being, I think she could, if she were like looking for long lost clones or anything, she would possibly find, depending on what the fate of the Bad Batch is. That's the main question. Yeah. So, I mean, they probably just go with the grown up, Omega, who we get an idea of what she would look like this season.
Well, other than the whole brown hair aspect.
That's what I'm saying. They could always change. I'm saying it's a rough idea. It's just like, in general, like, yeah.
Oh well.
Anyway, let's see. So should we talk about our new bad guy this season?
Oh yeah, we almost
Dr.
forgot
Hemlock.
about him. Yeah,
Which is kind of interesting because Hemlock is a kind of poison, so
It's really funny to me with Dr. Hemlock is the fact that he's played by Jimmy Simpson, who's mostly a comedic actor, from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's so menacing here.
it's like it kind of is. I think it's kind of interesting that his whole poison immunity is kind of hinted at with his name. I mean, Hemlock is literally a kind of poison.
Yeah, no, it's a clever, yeah, it's cool.
yeah.
I mean,
there's no way that was a random, naming.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
We need scary plant names. Who's got one?
plus it also makes her a good villain name too. It's just, I mean, it just sounds like a badass villain name too, so it works.
I mean, I don't know if its name is actually of Germanic origins, but it definitely gives me that sort of like German name.
Hey, let me check on that.
No, we're definitely we're going for the Nazism with this guy.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
The Hemlock etymology.
But anyway, yeah, he's a very interesting villain that I almost wish they would.
Technically, the name is derived from Middle English.
Huh, interesting.
Which is technically kind of Germanic, but it's not. I don't think it's. It's not saying it's strictly from German. But go on. Sorry.
Oh no, it's just very interesting though. Like his character, I mean, has to be the series like big bad, but I kind of wish they would have hinted at him earlier or really had him featured earlier, because he wasn't in season 1 at all. Right?
Yeah.
No, he was not in season 1.
Yeah,
he's an introduction for. He's
like,
introduced in this season.
He's introduced what, halfway through season 2?
See, the first season you had that Rampart guy.
Yeah, Admiral Rampart.
Yeah, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rampart was like the main villain of like the first 8 episodes. Like,
Especially Rampart's tasked with like keep an eye on the squad. Sorry,
and also he's also the one responsible for the Camino conspiracy.
Yeah, he's responsible for that, and he Clone Force 99 is supposed to keep tabs on them, and he's been kind of keeping that secret. So yeah, it's essentially his whole shtick.
Yeah, it turns out not very good at it.
And Dr. Hemlock, he's very much in the kind of the. He seems to be kind of our fill-in or kind of our placeholder a little bit for Thrawn, in terms of this is a guy who's like kind of in charge. This guy's like cloning plans, and this guy's more of like the beginnings of the cloning plans. In terms of like what the Emperor has in mind, which again probably the beginnings of Mando and the First Order and everything we're kind of plotting there.
Well, it turns out he's not very good at that. He's not very good at that because he has to bring in the Kaminoans for that, remaining Kaminoans.
And so now Say is not going to talk, and he realized that there's no version of this where he's like just going to play nice with her. And like, no, I'm going to bring. You think like I'm going to bring her the girl, and she's going to be all happy, and she'll do what I ask. Like, no, I'm going to bring her the girl. I'm going to threaten to kill the girl, do terrible things to the girl if she says no. Yeah.
It's like we don't want to kill Omega.
I love that he's like promising the girl, like, hey, come with us, we'll treat you real nice.
And then it's like when it gets, it's like, well, nope.
Nope.
It's like, nope. Did we say we treat you nice? I said we. It's like, well, that was a straight up lie.
All right, so let's talk about the.
Well, actually, really quick, I just, well, two things. Speaking of Hemlock, really quick, I just thought that it's kind of interesting. Some of our more recent villains that we've gotten in the Star Wars universe have been a little bit more calm, cool, and collected. Almost like devoid of emotion. I feel like that's the same thing that we saw with Moff Gideon as well. He does play. I mean, he has his emotional moments. Don't get me wrong, but he does kind of play it that way, and that's exactly how Thrawn played it as well. So just a very interesting thing that I was thinking about. Which, I mean, they do make for very menacing, villains. And like before we get into the next thing too, like we did very briefly just mention Admiral Rampart, and we kind of forgot that in season 2 here we saw literally the Empire throw him completely under the bus.
Yeah.
Which was like kind of crazy because he was such a a big part of season 1.
But basically, but that also like demonstrates. Well, first off, it was nice to get Ian McDermott back as the Emperor.
Yeah,
always is.
But it also just demonstrates that again that the Emperor is just willing to dispose of anyone as long as it suits his needs. Like doesn't matter how long you serve the Empire, what your use is. If the Emperor wants you gone, you're as good as gone.
yeah. Which is something I absolutely love about that character, is he's so freaking intelligent, which is what makes him so enticing.
Yep, until he got into that little metal dangling chair in Rise of Skywalker. He's pretty smart, yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, so let's see. So the
well, there's a difference. Well, then again, like he is smart, but as even evidenced in the original trilogy, he is a bit boastful and cocky when he thinks he can flaunt his power.
Oh, I'm afraid it's quite fully operational.
To be fair, he may be smart, but he does have his boastful side and cocky side.
He's got there's a bit of flamboyance to the Emperor. There's
remember
power. The guy's got some bonbons to him.
Well, it's very campy, which is what he originally even told Lucas back in the 80s when they were filming, the final Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
That is like, there is this level of campiness to him. But I think, his cockiness, his arrogance is, honestly, it's kind of justified in a lot of ways. He is insanely intelligent and he is insanely powerful. I always think back to like one of my favorite scenes of him is in the Clone Wars when he takes on both Savage and Maul and completely destroys them.
Oh yeah. Yep. Let's see. So something also just a little side note here. We had like the Bad Batch stranded for a few episodes, which something you got to give credit for with the 16 episodes that we can't allow them to like be stranded for more than one episode. So that kind of helped. They're at the Ipsum mines, like the little exploding kind of like mineral veins and stuff. Like that was kind of cool. That's where we have like the Tech and Omega bonding, and their ship was stolen by Mako. There's a lot of Avatar this season with the kind of the Zuko thing with Crosshair, and we have like a guy literally called Mako, and also Jacob. Did you catch who voiced his little urchin pal?
Yuri Lowenthal.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Because this entire episode is basically a Star Wars version of Oliver Twist.
Pretty much, yeah. And we even have episodes kind of like Alien with the Zillo Beast.
I think the Zillo Beast is actually a returning thing from Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Like so, basically, yeah, it's like George, I want to do a kaiju thing in Clone Wars. Sure, why not?
Yeah, sure.
All right, go right ahead.
Just imagine it'd be like a Dilbert comic where George just kind of wanders into like a little tides or something. It's like kind of like hey George, can I do this? Yeah, sure. Just walks off.
It's like okay. As long as
and like, but George like just tossing a little lightsaber as like a little like kind of affect while I was just kind of thinking. It's like like it's like he's playing with a yo-yo or something.
it's like, hey Dave, what's that?
It's my hat.
Okay. What does it have to do with Clone Wars?
Makes me feel bigger.
Okay, carry on.
The 10-gallon hat makes me feel taller.
As long as it's not like a Doug Dimmadome hat.
Oh god, that's always bothered me how inconsistent they were with that hat because sometimes it reached to the head. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Point being, so the summit. Let's talk about the summit.
The summit.
So the summit, a lot of World War II kind of Nazi parallels there. The fact we're meeting, a bunch of German guys meeting at kind of this fancy summit, kind of like kind of a. I mean, kind of like, I guess kind of a Swiss Alps sort of vibe to a degree, a little bit of like peace talky kind of thing.
Yeah, but we even got credit back from Rogue One.
Yeah. Now what we really need is see Moff Gideon animation. That's what we really need.
As long as they get Giancarlo.
Oh, thank God. Well, Giancarlo loves doing this. So he'll be back.
Like well, maybe that's the way they can bring him back. Have it be a prequel.
The real question. Here's the real question. Prequel, Gideon, mustache or no mustache?
Yes.
That's the real question.
Well, maybe one of the clones could have a mustache.
No.
Just no.
They can have beards, they can have goatees. They can't have mustaches. Clones don't have mustaches, Jacob.
Then why? Well, okay. I mean, but how do you explain like that? Don't some of the Bad Batch have facial hair?
That's what I'm saying. They can have beards, they can't have mustaches.
Actually, didn't we have someone that had a mustache?
Well, I'm kidding about the mustache.
Remember, like Gregor and Wolf and Rebels, they had. I think it was one of them had like a whole beard.
That's what I'm saying. They have facial hair. I'm just saying specifically just the simple mustache. They can't have the simple mustache.
So they can have a beard and mustache.
Yeah.
Or just a beard, but not just a mustache.
Precisely.
Okay then.
Again, not really posing any facial hair limitations, but it's the fact we have not seen a single regular mustache in Star Wars, though.
I mean, heck, even doesn't Hunter have like stubble?
That's what I'm saying. He has stubble, but no mustache.
Yeah, no actual just mustache. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did Dooku have? Like in younger days? He's not a clone though. So
Yeah, he had a beard.
Yeah, that doesn't. I guess it doesn't matter. He
had a pointy beard in Clone Wars, regular beard in live action, but
Dooku had full facial hair, mustache,
yeah.
beard, everything. Yeah.
I could have sworn that in like what did he have in Tales of the Jedi?
Oh, I think it was
the same. Just it wasn't gray at that point.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was black.
I mean, okay. I mean, like, let's see. Star Wars.
Yeah, we don't need to go this deep down.
Anyway, going back to the summit. I mean, the summit was a nice little setup. It was very interesting to see, Krennic and also Saul Guerrera, two rogue characters.
Andor, like Cassian Andor, he just had a mustache.
Okay, that's fair, but again, not a clone though.
Well, actually, Andor had facial hair. Thick, but anyway,
the mustache was the most prominent part of his face.
Yeah, but it wasn't just the mustache.
I know.
Actually, there is a I could be making this up, but I don't think I am. There is a
Lando.
Again, not a clone, but okay.
Okay, yeah. If we're not talking about just clones, then that's a different story.
I'm just talking about clones.
Well, you said characters.
I said there's not many characters with mustaches and stuff. You can count them on one hand, but broadly, but no clones with just mustaches.
But anyway, yeah, going back to the summit episode. I mean, I think it was a nice little setup for the finale. And I think, it was cool getting, the tease of Krennic and Project Stardust and Saul Guerrera being there. It kind of got ruined for me that Saul was going to be in the episode. I didn't know when. But so like the second he did show up in, disguise, I knew it was Saul Guerrera, which is unfortunate, but it's still really cool getting to see them. But yeah, that like part 1 of the finale, I wasn't like super crazy about. But like I said, it was a nice setup for the actual finale.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And now I guess we can get into the actual finale then.
Yeah, also, real quick, just so I don't forget it, we had the Wookiee Jedi.
Oh yeah, Gungi.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
blanking on his name. What was it?
Gungi.
Gungi. Yeah, we
yeah.
had Gungi in this.
Which the second he was shown, I thought to myself, is that the Padawan from the Clone Wars who built his own like wooden lightsaber, which I thought was so fucking cool watching
Mhm.
that episode to
Oh yeah.
see that interesting of a
I
lightsaber.
thought that was. You're saying that wasn't him?
No, it was him.
Yeah. Okay. There you
I
go.
was when I was saying that when I was watching the episode, I was wondering to myself, is that him? And then
Yeah.
it later did get confirmed. It obviously was him.
Well, there's not really
Cool.
many Wookiee Jedi, so I have to imagine I'd be really shocked if that was not him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even before they showed him with Force abilities, because I think in the beginning they just showed him as a prisoner, right?
Right.
But yeah, really cool. But another episode that I honestly I feel like we could have, if it didn't exist, I wasn't gonna cry over it. I don't think I'd miss it.
I mean, you're not wrong, but it was kind of cute.
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway, yeah. So finale time.
I 99.
Yeah. So a lot of big stuff happens this episode. I love the rail car thing that we start with, and I love the way in which Tech dies. I mean, of course, I know it's in quotes, and we don't fully see the body, but we don't want to see like all the bloodshed. Plus, yes, if I was convinced that Tech was going to be revealed to be alive, I respected that we did not see his like body like on the slab, like with all the other clones at the end of the episode. I would respect the fact that, okay, man, it seems like we're going to keep a guy dead, but again, we still have a season left, so I guess we'll see. My assumption was that we're going to bring Tech back in a horrifically mangled experiment, like Dr. Mengele style, like clone experiment. And if we are going to see him, that's the only way I imagine they would bring him back. But I am hoping we just keep him dead.
Well, I do admit it's kind of gutsy for this show not to actually have the season end on like a happy note.
Yeah, they're playing by the Back to the Future rules. It's the trilogy thing. The second one's the dark ones, the dark season. Everything's sad.
Like the batch is separated. Omega's been captured.
Tech got struck by lightning.
Tech supposedly fell to his death with the only thing retrievable was his goggles.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
I mean, I think it is pretty. I feel like it's got to be super obvious that he's still alive.
But
Just
again, if
the
he's
fact
alive,
that,
do you
like-
think we mangle him and make him like a horrible experiment?
I think that'd be kind of cool.
I mean, that wouldn't be out of this realm for. I mean, Clone Wars did some pretty messed up stuff. So
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, Echo is a huge testament to that. But yeah, I don't. To be honest, I don't think they're going to do that. But I do think he's going to be alive because of the whole like, this was all that we could find of him. And
yeah,
like,
it seems suspect that that's again seeing that we didn't see his body with the rest of them at the end. I don't know.
But it's the fact that they ended it with that line. This is all we
Yeah.
could find of him.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no. Look, I mean, you're right. It's gonna kind of stink just because, man, we can't keep anyone dead in these Star Wars things.
And it's like, of course, in a sense, I don't want these characters to die, but like, if everyone is just safe, there are no stakes.
What's going to bother me is the fact that this episode played that loss so well. That's what's going to suck about it. It's not the fact that he's.
And the thing is, though, like it did happen early in the episode too, within like the first 7 minutes.
I mean, like we had like almost like that scene from Captain America: The First Avenger, where like Wrecker's sat at the bar and he can't drink. Where Sid's like pouring him a free one on the house as it's not going to bring him back. Like seriously, playing the loss on Wrecker broke my heart. Like the seeing him like beg Tech not to do it, and then Tech let go of the thing to save them all.
Yeah,
and just seeing Wrecker like be right there and helpless to save his friend, like that's what gutted him, man. And that's what I'm saying. Like, played the loss so well, and I love like Omega. She came to after the blast and everything, and she's just like so upset by all that was played. And after she went through a thing where she's kind of mad at Tech, and then they patched things up. It was wonderful.
And of course, I mean, you really feel bad for Wrecker. I mean, you can tell he feels responsible for what happened to Tech.
Yeah, I remember like Tech and Wrecker. They're two sides of a coin on that team. They have like the smart guy in the room and kind of the lovable dim guy in the room, and he's lost his other half. It's heartbreaking.
And then the thing where Sid sells him out, that stings even more.
Yeah,
I mean, things are really. This is like the low of lows for the batch.
and Wrecker feels really manipulated and stupid right there because he was the first one kind of taken prisoner and kind of having him over a barrel.
See, none of that really hit with me when I watched the episode because once again, I like, the outcome. Like, whereas like watching, certain instances of like, rebels, certain, incidences or deaths, they hit you because they're final. They're definitely there. These did not hit me. I figured at that point, she was going to betray them. I figured he's going to still be alive. Who knows when we're going to get that like reveal? It's going to probably be like the cliffhanger of an episode in season 3 where it's like, oh, he's alive and he just saved everyone.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't hit me. I guess it's still sad, but I don't know.
That's fair enough.
Like Kanan with all his shit in Rebels right at the very final season, like that was sad.
We haven't finished Rebels yet. Just want to say.
Yeah, we're well. It's all I know about Rebels in regards to the ending is just the fact that we kind of left Ezra and Thrawn's fate up in the air, which is what we're kind of circling around with with the Ahsoka, basically all the Mando and Ahsoka stuff. So the idea like well we haven't seen Thrawn and Ahsoka's looking for a friend.
Well, Thrawn was in the trailer, so we know something happened.
Well, I know we're gonna. I'm just saying they built that up in like Mando. They're throwing around Thrawn's name and Mando, but we are gonna see him in Ahsoka. Yes.
I think
Anyway.
I'm sorry, Casey. I just haven't finished.
Oh no, it's perfectly fine. I thought you said earlier you were rewatching it.
I mean, I guess that's fair.
He's rewatching the last season that he saw, which was 2. So
I didn't make that clear, so that's partially how that is. So that is my fault.
I have not finished Rebels either, but I think I'm further along, Jacob, slightly.
Well, Rebels truly is one of the best Star Wars like shows.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I've seen all of Clone Wars. Like I said, season 7 was great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially the Maul stuff, as we've talked about before. The Maul stuff was fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like Skywalker's the key to all of this. It's like, oh boy, that reminds me. I wonder if we'll see Maul at all in this. I mean, I know he reappears in Rebels. I know that much. I mean, he's on the poster for Pete's sake.
Well, I gotta wonder if we see Maul, and I could be wrong here. If we see Maul, he might be operating Crimson. Was it Crimson Ring? Crimson.
That's the whole Shadow Collective, I think.
Yeah, but isn't it called Crimson something?
Crimson Dawn.
Crimson Dawn. Like, yeah, they'll probably see him like doing the whole Shadow Collective Crimson Dawn thing if we see him this season.
Yeah, obviously he won't die because it's the whole battle with Obi-Wan.
Or we could cut him in half again; it'll be fine.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, there's only so many times you can cut him in half.
It'd be really funny if just Wreckers walked over and just pushed him off his body.
It's like, you get out of here.
It's like, hey, he tosses him out a window. Not again! Hatred, Kenobi!
Kenobi!
Ah!
Like, speaking of which, can we just Steve Baker really nailed out of the park this season too, as he always does.
As he always does. Honestly, I gotta be honest. If they ever do a Book of Boba Fett season 2, they gotta get.
I hope not.
Oh, well, okay, fine. Regardless, if we ever. The point being, it would be nice at some point to get him interacting with Tamara Morrison. It'd be kind of cute to get D. Baker a scene with him in some cameo.
Yeah, it's like I love how
the fact that he's done his voice so many times. It would be kind of cute.
I just love how every character he does it sounds distinct. I mean, you can tell they sound the same because they're clones, but they still sound distinct from one another.
You got to imagine they've worked D. Bradley Baker into the movies, mainly the sequel trilogy. At some point, there's the stormtrooper voices, right? At least for one of them.
I honestly have no
Because
idea.
you get a lot
Really?
of celebrity cameos as the stormtroopers. I'm just imagining, given all the volume of celebrity cameos they have as the stormtroopers in the sequel trilogy, you'd imagine at least one of them would be D. Bradley Baker, right?
No, I'm going to search that up.
I mean,
Like
I
they've
mean,
had to have worked him in there somewhere. But it'd be really cruel otherwise if they say, "Hey, you can be all of the clones, man. You can be all of them, but never in the movies."
to be fair, to be fair, doing all the clones in the through seven, technically now like 10 or so seasons of Star Wars and animation. It's like he's definitely made his name in the universe.
That's what I was saying. Is the fact that he's made his name in the universe. It'd be kind of like a nice little thing of like, hey, we're casting a bunch of people to be our stormtroopers. You're very widely known for playing clone troopers and technically stormtroopers. Why don't you? Let's give you one of them.
I think he provided the voice of like the spider people, or not the spider people, like the lady, the passenger in the episode, the passenger of Mando.
Okay.
So I think he provided. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, the frog lady. Yeah,
the frog lady. I think
Okay.
he provided.
I did not. Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that was D. Baker provided the voice for that.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
that's cool.
no clone stuff. I mean, there was actually a bit of I'm going to call it a smaller controversy about a couple years ago where people, or actually it was during Bad Batch season 1. People were not particularly happy with D. Bradley Baker still voicing the clones, just due to the fact that he's a white guy and the clones are technically of like Islander descent.
But they're space people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it's the fact that Tamora, who is an Islander, played, Boba and Django and all the clones
Should
are
have thought
made from
about
them.
that when they were casting way back when. It's like, maybe you can say, hey, let me voice the cartoon.
Yeah.
It's not really. It doesn't really make that much of a difference, really. I think it's just people trying to be offended on purpose in that case.
I mean, look, I don't know. I wasn't there in the room. I don't know if it was a thing where, like, no, we're going to get a professional voice actor to do the voice for an animated show, and they can consider Morrison. I don't know if they asked him or not, but it's like, if they asked him, he said no, and then people are billing but that's on him. Okay, that's on. And no one can complain about the Islander thing if that's what happened. We don't know.
And let's face it, D. Bradley Baker is probably a better voice actor than Tamora Morrison is.
No, that's what I'm saying. So ultimately, they made the right choice there, probably. And the fact is, you know what it probably is. You know why we have D. Bradley Baker?
Why is that?
No, it's because again, if what they're doing in Clone Wars and what we're doing, especially now at the Bad Batch, is we want to give each of the clones personality. That's why they did that. They couldn't have gotten Morrison even if they wanted him, because there's a question of how much range an actor is going to have, especially if they've not done voice work. You need a guy who's going to be able to sell They all have the same voice, but they're all very different characters.
Tamora Morrison has technically I think he voiced Boba Fett in Visions, as a brief appearance in Visions.
Really?
I think so. The band episode, I think Tamora Morrison was in that one.
Did he speak? Did Boba speak in that?
Yes.
Okay.
Technically, he did. But I think that might be one of the few times he's actually reprised his roles in animation. But like I said, I'm glad we got D. Baker. I love his work as all the clones here. Very few people can do what he does. Maybe Eric Bauza could probably do what he did. That's the only other person of that caliber I can think of. But so, I'm glad that and D. Bradley Baker, he gave each of the especially each of the Bad Batch distinct voices and personalities, but while also still sounding almost the same. And that's a hard thing to do. The guy that does that. Basically, the point is the guy deserves a freaking Emmy already.
Yeah.
He deserves a long overdue voice actor Emmy.
That is true. All right, so season ends. Hemlock captures Omega, using her to blackmail our Camino scientists. The Bad Batch are determined to save her next season. I love that. I love how determined Hunter is. We're gonna find Omega. We're not stopping anything. We're not stopping for anything to find her.
And now the batch has basically been reduced to just 100. The original batch is down to 2 if we count Tech being dead, and then it's just down to Hunter and Wrecker now.
Well, listen, Echo. What happened to Echo?
I mean, Echo's there. I said of the original
Oh,
batch.
well, okay. The point being, the Bad Batch collectively is it's down to 3.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying of the original batch.
Yes, of the original batch, we got 2 left. We're
But
far down from.
but it is nice to have Echo back, though. I mean, he did leave for a few episodes, and it was nice to see Captain Rex again.
Do we know why that character truly left?
Well, D. Bradley Baker was just like, you know what, guys? I get paid for every 3 characters, and you're really gonna cheap out on me on this episode. You don't want me to voice another character? Fine, write Echo out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason he left with Captain Rex for a bit was because he wanted to, because he had a mission to do, and that's what he felt like he needed to be.
I think the real reason was to kind of misdirect that we're going to kill off Tech at the end. I think it's the main reason. We're basically getting Omega upset about Echo, and then we're going to bring him back, and we are going to actually, at least in quotes, actually kill off one of them.
No.
That's what my money's on for why we did that.
Felt a little strange, but who knows? Maybe we'll have a better sense of clarity once the series is wrapped.
Honestly, I think they struggle with Echo writing wise. That's what I think it is.
I mean, that might be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't really have much to do.
That's what I'm saying. It's because they don't have much to do with him. Plus, he was kind of tacked. He wasn't part of the original batch, so I think it's that also.
But then again, I feel like it was the same thing with Tech during season 1. It felt like they didn't know what to do with him, and then they actually did a great job of making his bond with Omega more apparent, and I feel like Omega is. Which is another reason why the Tech kill would be much better if he was actually dead, because Omega kind of was taking over. She was learning to take over for him. We see that with the pilot lessons, for instance.
The Tech turn, or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
It's like, that is not what I called that. He's like, I do not remember naming it that, but I do kind of like the sound of it. Like it's a shame, really. I mean, remember, folks out there, these 2 are advocating for Tech's death. Like, the Dragon wants him dead.
I mean, it's not personal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the character by any stretch of the imagination.
I love Tech. The only way we're gonna miss him is if he's gone.
I didn't say you hated him. I just say they want him dead.
Well, yeah, I want him dead because I want there to be stakes to what we're seeing here.
I know. I'm just taking your lines out of context.
Yeah, I'm just creeping up behind Tech, and I'm pulling out some strangling water. It's like, I'm sorry. It's for the story. It's for the story. I'm sorry.
Talking about a Deus Ex Machina.
I gotta grab the glasses too. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's like I'm just taking your lines out of context, making it sound like you guys are bloodthirsty killers.
Yeah. So, West Murder.
Yes.
Emery Carr. We revealed the doctor lady who's been kind of seemingly. She's been saying she's been trying to help Crosshair, but initially framed a little sinisterly. We reveal that she is actually on our clone's side here,
I'm your sister, Omega. We're sisters.
And essentially, she's the grown-up version of Omega with a different hairstyle, like bum bum bum,
and basically also a different accent too.
I don't think. But
I mean, it's not too
far.
far.
On the accent at the end, or was it not there?
I mean, the only clue to it at first was the way she said Omega as Omega.
Yeah, there you go.
But that's basically was the only other clue.
Yeah, who's in the mood for kiwis?
Okay then.
Well, no, that's what they call New Zealand.
I know. I'm just saying.
Oh.
I was just saying. Like, I've never actually had the fruit kiwis, and so.
Yep.
Anyway, Casey, have you ever had kiwis?
I feel like I have before. I don't quite remember the taste of it though. I've only had it maybe like once or twice.
I think I've had it mixed in with stuff like strawberry kiwi, but I think
like a fruit salad or something. For me, I feel like a fruit salad.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a kiwi by itself.
Oh, definitely not by itself. No.
I know they're kind of like small and kind of like furry a little bit. I think the outsides are at least.
For some reason, I feel like I remember them being like green and seedy in the inside.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. I've just never actually had them myself. Anyway, now that we're talking about fruit,
We have
and
gotten on so many tangents tonight.
I mean
Yeah.
that's part of the fun of this kind of format. We can go off on all kinds of tangents. Like, remember, Casey? Like, I don't know if you watched this. Like when Dragon and I did Obi-Wan, we basically went on like a 5 to 10 minute rant of how, and a tangent of how Darth Vader would torture Obi-Wan. Remember that, Dragon?
Oh no, I remember. Yeah.
It's like it was like over 5 to 10 minute. Like, it's like, okay, he's gonna put him in there, and then he's gonna shave off his beard. Oh God. Anyway, now anything else we should bring up before we end it off? Like anything else we forgot to talk about?
I feel like we've covered everything.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about like all like the themes, the Zillow Beast, like kind of like the movie homages. Like they really like doubled down on like the movie homages this season.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Crosshair's arc, Omega, the
Oh,
Empire.
we maimed Ben Schwartz. I was happy about that.
Like, yeah, it's like I'm sure you were, Dragon. I'm sure
Yep.
you were. I'm sure you were. Dragon has this thing against Ben Schwartz.
Yeah, he keeps showing up in things. Only this time we were able to dismember him, which I was happy about. That.
Dragon wants Ben Schwartz dead.
I said dismember. I did not say dead.
Well, dismembered really isn't much better. All right, so anyway, so Casey, any last words?
Still looking forward to season 3, although I'm really hoping season 3 can pull everything together really nice and neat, because as of now, both seasons of Bad Batch, alongside a lot of other Star Wars properties right now, are just very mid, which is very unfortunate. But ultimately, I guess I'm still enjoying it, which should be the key here.
Well, they are located in the mid rim. Okay.
Okay, Dragon, any
Okay.
last words?
Don't judge me for that joke. No. My real last words are yeah. So again, I enjoyed the season of Bad Batch. Again, I don't think I like as much as the first season collectively, kind of start to finish sort of thing. But it was again, I was enjoying the high highs. I was feeling it at the end. I think Crosshair stole the show. I still love the concept of this show, and I'm looking forward to seeing it reach a nice finish. I have faith it's going to.
Yeah, so, like I'm kind of with you on that one. Like I said, I've seen all. I've seen Clone Wars. I've seen like the first. Like I'm almost to the end of the second season of Rebels, and I still decide like I don't think these reach as high of a high as those do. But still, I wouldn't call it bad. That's the word bad may be in the name, but I don't think it lives up to I don't think it's an adjective to describe the actual show itself. It's basically the A-Team in space, and it's kind of hard to go wrong with that. Like honestly, and then I'll go with what Casey said. I do hope the third season does tighten things up a little bit, deliver that epic punch we've been looking for. At least that. But if it continues on this trajectory, I can definitely see it having a satisfying conclusion in the end. All right, Dragon, close us off.
That'll do it for us this week as we holster our remotes till the next installment calls for the draw. Mano y mano, just Plus&Us.
Oh.
Good night.
Good night.
On full.